Literally, take it from us. You don't know what you're talking about. It's okay. It's okay, but you don't know what you're talking about.
I actually have... I don't even know what I'll do with it. I wrote it purely out of my own... I just sat for a couple hours and just mashed my keyboard. But it's this sort of thing of, the misconceptions of FF. Where there's a lot of people like, oh, it's a weeb game. Or well, it's actually not. That's a long story for the minute, but it's not a weeb game because, it doesn't follow any of the... it's not very anime. It's not very... There's a couple parts where it kind of is in, side content, humor, stuff like that. It has, Mikote, but they're not particularly...
They're not that weeby.
They're not that weeby. The Aura, kind of not really. Lalafels are a little weeby, but then not really too bad. And then you've got, I'm trying to think. It is traditionally Final Fantasy. Because the original Final Fantasies weren't weeb at all. And their language kind of divorced from the rest of, Japanese culture stuff.
Oh, big, yeah.
Where you've got weeb, if you're playing Scarlet Nexus, if you're playing Astral Chain, some of the trope stuff about, characters in, Tales games, etc., and kind of RPGs, you'll feel a lot of those. A weeb game is Hyperdimension Neptunia. That's a fucking weeb game. That's a game where you cannot enjoy that unless you're so deep in weebery, you forget who you are.
Yeah.
Honestly, sorry, it'll do, so I think that shows where I am, but it's not a weeb game. It's, it's kind of what I wanted to eventually talk about, but, with Berserk's influence on stuff, especially FF. It's yeah, it's all that Western fantasy, but the Japanese really loved it in the 80s, and they took a little bit of a spin on it.
Yeah.
But it's so different from your general anime. FF14 never feels like a shonen anime, which is where people will call weeb. People will call it weeb whenever it's there's maybe a couple moments that would evoke some of the same feelings, but it's never a weeb game. It's not a weeb game. If you're saying that you are failing to define weeb enough, you're using the fact that it's Japanese.
People, they don't. It's the people who would say that wouldn't know the difference between weeaboo and otaku.
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent bit of overlap.
There is overlap, but
that's huge overlap generally. But
no, there's huge overlap. But from what I understand, the definition of that has always been a degree of engagement in the fandom, and then there's slightly different connotations to both.
I guess it's the case of otaku literally means someone who's a hyper fan of something.
Okay.
So it's it more the.
That could be fucked up. And
yeah, the connotations over time is of an anime otaku is the default for saying otaku. You say otaku and someone goes, oh, someone who's I can't believe I'm about to describe my fucking self, but someone who's oh yeah, there's a load of they're listening to Love Live songs on the walk, fucking, and they're sitting on the train, they're listening to idol stuff, they'll go buy a load of merch, they'll go home and they've got idol posters and stuff like that. All that stuff is kind of synonymous, but it's more the fact that I feel people just look and go, oh, it's I wouldn't call it racist because it's not, because it's just about cultural stuff, which I don't think kind of fits that bill really too well. But it's not weeb. It's a Japanese game. Doesn't make it weeb. Learn your if you want to communicate, learn the definitions of the words you're saying, learn how they're used, learn how they feel, and then actually use them. Because otherwise, your criticism is lazy and means nothing. Because if you're calling FF a weeb game, you're not engaging with it in any capacity, and your criticism can be thrown instantly in the bin.
Yeah. So there's half of Asmongold's chatter coming for you.
Yeah.
But I agree entirely, yeah.
I spend a lot of time in Asmongold's stream watching. I love the energy in his chat. But people who are anti-weeb for no good reason, fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Simple as. Try to be reasonable. Try to be reasonable, engage with things properly. It's
But that's not emotionally satisfying.
Yeah.
In the moment, that's the thing.
That's actually perfect. Virtual Souls, which is a good name, says 14 is weeb in the same way Dark Souls is weeb. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
14 is more inspired by
They call Mikote furries?
Of course, yeah. Well, that's wrong because
people say FF's a furry game. World of Warcraft is so much more a furry game than FF14.
Yeah, because
much more.
Which races in FF could be considered furry? The Hrothgar.
Mr. John himself says this man's in denial about it being a weeb game. You don't fucking understand what you're talking about. You literally take it from us. You don't know what you're talking about. It's okay. It's okay, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's okay, but you don't know.
Yeah, that's just essentially it. But in terms of furries, Hrothgar furries, because they are fur head to toe. Viera, I'm pretty sure their skin is regular skin. They're just got bunny ears and tail and characteristics. Not furry. Well, maybe. The old definition, as far as I'm aging myself so badly here, but the old definition is 10%. That was the accepted definition among people back in the day, back in the early 2000s. It's 10%. If it's ears and tail, not a furry. Anything else, a little bit. Like Felicia from Darkstalkers, who has big paws, ears, tail, and some like fur that's kind of acting as clothing. That's definitely like bit, but by that definition, furry. But then
Interesting.
But then you go to World of Warcraft, like Worgen, Volpera, Tauren.
So on that, we do have a super actually. It's from
Alright, good.
Moonky Junkie, who says, if FF is a weeb game, you would have to admit that WoW is a furry game with Worgen, Draenei, Volpera, Pandaren, and Tauren. Just saying. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like if you're going to call FF14 it's the sort of thing. Weebs will like FF14. Doesn't make FF14 a weeb game.
Yeah.
Furries will like World of Warcraft because it has furry-like things in it. You can play an anthro character, whatever. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that WoW is a furry game. Because it's not like I log into World of Warcraft and, it's all the single furries is just being sang in chat or, anything like that. So, yes.
Yeah.
Definitions. Oh, we're really good at making definitions for each other and then half fucking killing each other over them. And sometimes literally killing each other over them. Yep. Humans are great.
Yeah. So that was one of the major misconceptions is people are like, oh, weeb game. You're like, if you don't know what a weeb game actually means and you're using it just as a buzzword, that's fine. But your criticism can be thrown out because you don't understand.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as that. If you want to criticize a game, absolutely, by all means, just do it properly. Just criticize it for what it's what.
Yeah, because it's really easy to criticize FF14 as it turns out.
Yeah, it is full of problems, and also it is a creative endeavor. If you don't like it, then so what?
So Mogbit supers us saying, so then by the 10% definition, the aura are scalies.
By that definition, yes.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go. We've worked it out.
I imagine the goalposts have probably moved a little bit in general. So I think I think a lot of people would say no, but by the old definition that I grew up on, weirdly enough, they definitely are.